Just like the title of the video says that you clicked on, we're working with some green screen today. A couple quick tips that will help with your green screen editing is try to light the screen itself as evenly as possible. You can see on the video in front of you, it's a bit dark in the corners. That's going to create a bit of a problem later on. Another thing that you want to do is try to set your subject as far away from the screen as possible. What happens is light will reflect off that screen onto the person, and this is also going to create some problems later on. Click on your color page within DaVinci. Within the color page, what you want to do is you want to select your color picker. So I think by default it's usually on curves. Go to color, and then you want to go down here to where it says selection range, and you want this first one. That's going to be your color picker option. Go up to your screen and click on it, and you can see right away within the node here that it's telling us what of that green is selected. Ideally, you want everything except for the subject to be selected, but as mentioned, since this is not lit evenly, it's going to create a bit of a problem. But I want to show you how to work through that, which is kind of why we did this. Okay, now what we need to do is invert the selection. So we're back here in our selection range, and to the far right, you've got this one, which is your invert. Just click on that, and you can now see within the node, I'm visible, as well as some of the green and now gray. That gray is kind of where the color picker has selected. Next thing we need to do is within this node area, and by the way, if you don't have the node selected, it's just up here on the right. Just click on nodes, and that will bring it up for you. Okay, now within the nodes, right click, you want to add this one, add alpha output. Click on that. You can see what it did is it created this little blue dot. What we need to do is we need to connect these together. So click on this little square, the blue square, and just drag it over to the blue dot. And you can see magic is starting to happen on our video. But of course it's not perfect yet because, as mentioned, we have color bleed onto the subject, which is me, and the lighting issue. So in order to clean that up, what you now want to do is start adding additional colors. So go down to your selection range here, hit the little plus symbol, and go back up and start clicking on the areas of the screen. So you can see what's happening is we're converting more and more of it to black. You can zoom in if you need to, just hit Control plus on the keyboard and try to get in there and get as much of that as you can. Let's back out just one. Now, of course, it's not going to be perfect still, but it's looking much better. Okay, we still have, of course, a decent amount of green, and as you can see, the light shining over my shoulder and around my head. In order to clean this up, we want to now jump down to our qualifiers. And this is going to be our Hue Saturation and Luminance. Within this panel, this is going to vary from video to video, so there's no magic number of type 7.4 into softer, type 3.6 or 7 into the saturation. You're just going to have to kind of eyeball it. So what you can start doing is just kind of hover over with your mouse. What I'm doing is I'm dragging it to the right. It's increasing my center, and you can see what's happening on the screen. It's really bright behind me. I bring it to the right. Good, but then it starts to light up on the left. So we kind of want to just get that to the best of both worlds. With the width, do the same thing. Just click on it. I'm dragging it to the right, and you can see what's happening is now that screen's going nice and black. So this is looking really good. Much better for the background screen. So we're pretty good with just adjusting that center and width. We still have a lot of color bleed on me. Well, that's where we're going to get into our saturation. So with the saturation, I'll usually click within it and start dragging it around until I see changes, whether it be left or right. Just drag it until it works. Nothing happened with the right one there, but I know from past experience that if I click to the left side here and drag it a bit to the left, look around my shoulder, you can see. So I'm going to drag it to the right. You can see how bright it is, but if I drag it to the left, you can see it's starting to drop it right down to the edge there. So that's looking pretty good. And you can click on the center of the whole thing and drag it as well if you need to. And I'm just going to drag the whole thing just a hair to the left. Luminance, same exact thing. You can click within it, move it around, or you can click on the edges and move it around. Okay, That's looking pretty good for the bleed. We still got a little bit around the ear that you can see. Okay, next, that's all right, we're not done yet. Now, down here in where it says Matte Finesse, that's going to be our next point of where we're going to be cleaning up. So I'll usually start with the clean black actually and drag it to the right. So notice my ear, it's starting to get rid of that green around the ear. You don't want to go too far with this one. This is one of those ones that you just want a tiny little bit, because if you go too far, I'll drag it over and you can kind of see what's going to happen is you get a bit too much of a feathering versus a sharp line. So just go real subtle with that one. Denoise, I generally don't do a whole lot with. You can see if I drag it to the right, what's doing is it's feathering the edges again. So denoise, I usually just kind of leave at 0. Clean white is going to be another one you're going to want to play with a little bit. Look around my hairline. When I drag it out, it comes out to the left, so clean white I'm leaving. Blur radius, I will adjust a little bit, and this is just going to help a little bit with those edges to not look too sharp. And then that's pretty much it. So I'm getting it pretty good looking. I'd still like to see a little less bleed around the edge, but we are working with a free video editing software, so you kind of take what you can get. I can play it and kind of watch and see the movements on it. Around the head there, it still looks pretty bad. That's going to be my big area to kind of focus on. So let's just leave it at this. I would normally actually fix this a bit more, especially around the hair, but I'm not going to for the purpose of this video to just give you an idea. Let's jump back into the edit page and let's take a look. I'm just going to pull that video up to line 2 so I can put something else onto line 1. So let's pull that in and we will place it underneath. And you can see now a little better of what it looks like. So a lot of problems around the edges. So what I can do here is I can actually jump back into the color panel and I can tweak it some more again. So because now that I'm seeing what it looks like in front of the actual image that I'm going to be placing it in front of, I can start to tweak it until I like it. So I'm looking all right here. We still have a little bit of green around the top of the head that I'm not happy with, but it fixed those areas around the shoulder, and in that case I was dragging the saturation. But once again, it's going to be completely different for pretty much everyone. You just got to play with it until you get it right. And hopefully you got some use out of this video. As always, if you did, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. I appreciate it, and I do try to respond to comments as often as I can. And of course, share it to some video editing user group or whatever. That'd be great too. Have a nice day.